All three of Google Ads match types have drastically changed in recent years, and in today's video, we're going to show you exactly how each of the three match types now work inside Google Ads, showing you real examples from client campaigns, just so you know exactly the types of searches that you'd be eligible to appear for, depending on the match type that you choose for your own keywords. And just to briefly explain what the match types actually are, is they determine how closely a user's search query needs to match a keyword for an ad to be displayed. The simplest way of describing it is how close to the original keyword is the actual search term that you appear for. So exact match is obviously the strictest, with searches being the most related to the actual keywords themselves, whereas on the other hand then broad match is the loosest, meaning that you can appear for search terms that in a lot of cases can even be completely unrelated to the keyword itself. And just to show you now the three match types themselves in more detail, so you have broad match first of all, where ads may show on searches that are related to your keyword, which can be debatable as well because in some cases you could argue that the searches aren't even related at all. And as they say here, can include searches that don't contain the direct meaning of your keywords. So I would say with broad match that you might appear for a lot of searches that relate to your keywords, but the whole purpose of broad match is to really try and maximize the amount of traffic that you can appear for, and can be especially useful as well if you're really struggling for search volume inside your account, because it really is going to boost the amount of searches that you can appear for. And you will notice that if you aren't running any broad match keywords, that your search terms report is going to have a lot more searches than it would have had if you weren't using them. With phrase match then, the ads may show on searches that include the meaning of your keyword, and the keyword there being include, because phrase match searches don't have to mean the same thing as your keyword. So the intent doesn't have to be the same as long as it includes that intent. So this is something to be careful of as well, because a lot of the searches that you appear for under phrase match, you'd actually get really good keyword ideas inside your search terms report that can be added as new keywords to your campaign. But then you might also get a lot of irrelevant searches as well that have to be added as negatives. So it's like almost half and half the amount of relevant versus irrelevant search terms that appear under phrase match. Because just to give you a really simple example, if you were running a really specific service, for example, roof repair, then with phrase match keywords, you could almost appear for anything related to roof because that's included in the meaning of your keyword, even though the search mightn't actually mean roof repair itself, because roof is part of the keyword and anything to do with roof is included in the meaning of the keyword. Whereas exact match then is the strictest of the three match types. And before exact match, you used to only be able to appear for searches that were literally word for word exactly the same as that keyword. But now ads may show on searches that have the same meaning or the same intent as the keyword. So for any of the exact match keywords you're targeting, you're not limiting yourself to those exact keywords appearing as the searches themselves, but anything that means the same thing as those keywords you can appear for. Now, the theory itself only means so much and only gives you a certain idea of the types of searches that you can appear for under each match type. But now what we're going to do is look at some of the searches that appear under real campaign examples, so you know for the service that you're offering what match type would make most sense for you. And just to go through an example of an exact match keyword first. So here we have artificial grass landscaping as a keyword in an artificial grass installation ad group in a landscaping campaign. So what we're going to do is select this keyword and press search terms to see what searches we've actually appeared for as a result of targeting this exact match keyword. And now we can see from this exact match keyword alone, we've had 81 different search terms that we've appeared for. Now, this mightn't actually be the best example of an exact match keyword because most of the search terms that you'd appear for are usually highly relevant, and it's rare that you'd have to add a lot of negatives for an exact match keyword. But because this is such a specific service, we noticed in this campaign, for example, that we were getting a lot of searches for the product itself. So all of the searches were related to artificial grass or artificial turf, as mentioned in the keyword, which is exactly what we want. But in this specific example, people were searching for a role of the product themselves, and we had to add some negatives for those searches because we didn't want people looking to buy the product and then install it itself. We wanted to focus on search terms that indicated the person was looking for a company to install it for them. But you can see that in general, all of the search terms that were appeared for under artificial grass landscaping are related to artificial grass. But even as exact match, you can see here that not necessarily the intent is always the exact same as the keyword itself. And now to show you an example of the searches under a phrase match keyword, we have gutter cleaning here, which is part of a roofing campaign in a gutter cleaning ad group, and a keyword that's had over 100 clicks and over 1,000 impressions. So we're just going to look at, some of the search terms that we've appeared for under this specific keyword. And as you can see here, as we scroll through this list, we had to add quite a few negatives for this keyword, but not to say that we didn't appear for relevant searches that were relevant to gutter cleaning as well. So we found some examples of good keyword ideas to add to the campaign as well. For example, location specific keywords that popped up. But it's also important with phrase match as well to keep a close eye on your search terms report, because it will be necessary to add keywords to your campaign. And here, for example, we had searches that mentioned prices, which we didn't want to appear for, and things like other locations that the company wasn't targeting, or things like gutter cleaning products, so things that indicate the person might be looking to do the job themselves. So they're all related to gutter cleaning, so it includes the meaning of the keyword but doesn't mean the exact same thing as the keyword. So it is looser than exact match, as with exact match generally the intent is there, and any searches that you appear for usually do have the exact same meaning as the keyword. But with phrase match, you'll notice that you do get a lot of searches that do not mean the same thing as the keyword, but does also have a lot of searches that do mean the same thing as your keyword. So you'll notice that you get a good mix of relevant and irrelevant search terms appear under phrase match keywords. And lastly, then we're going to show you an example of a broad match keyword that we had recently implemented for a company that's using smart bidding, using a target CPA, which is usually, the only scenario that I would recommend adding in broad match keywords when you've really made the most of the traffic that you do have in place with exact or even phrase match, and you really want to maximize the amount of traffic that you are getting, is that you can go into search terms now on a broad match keyword, and you see here straight away that we already have more negatives to be adding for this keyword, and you're going to find yourself constantly in the search terms report adding a lot more negatives than you would have been if you were only using exact or phrase match keywords, because you'll notice you appearing for a lot of, for example, competitor names and other searches that just aren't related to the keyword of that ad group. So it's really important that unless you're planning, on making sure you do spend the time inside your search terms report, that you're really careful when using broad match keywords, because you can see how many irrelevant searches straight away that we appear for under there, which we'll need to add more negatives for. But you can see at the same time that it is a good way to get a lot more conversions, even though you're also appearing for a lot more irrelevant searches as well, because for this keyword alone we've had nearly 5,000 impressions. So in general, the looser the match type you are using, the more careful you do want to be, because you are opening yourself up to a lot more potential search terms and a lot more irrelevant ones, as you saw. Now, what I typically recommend for match types in general when starting any new campaign is to use all exact match keywords where possible, especially if you have the search volume to allow you to do so. If you're struggling to get clicks and impressions inside your account, then yes, I'd also recommend adding in phrase match keywords. But if you have enough traffic to use exact match keywords, then you might as well do so, because you know that for the most part that the vast majority of your search terms are going to be relevant to what you offer. So you can be confident enough that the intent is there. When somebody sees your ad from the beginning, they are likely to be someone that's actually looking for what you offer. And as a result of that, there is a lot less wasted clicks than you'd typically get with phrase or broad match. And it's also worth noting as well with exact match keywords that click-through rates and conversion rates are generally higher, which makes sense because most of the impressions that you're getting on your ads are from people searching for exactly what they see in the ad. And as long as your landing page lines up with the keyword and ad copy, then they have even more reason to convert as well. But it's also worth noting with exact match keywords that cost per clicks are also higher. But in general, we've found the higher click-through rates and conversion rates to make up for the higher cost per clicks. Now, what's really important as well, especially if you're using any broad or phrase match keywords, is making sure that you add negative keywords by going through your search terms report and adding negatives for any relevant search terms that you appear for, but also adding negative keywords at the beginning as well. So you can list all of your competitors and add them as a negative keyword list from the very beginning. And you can do so without adding any quotation marks or brackets around them. So they're broad match negatives, meaning that you don't appear for any searches that include all of those words. And this applies to any really generic keywords that you don't want to appear for example, that mention cost or how to or anything informational like that that doesn't have clear intent. And that's going to massively reduce the amount of potential irrelevant searches that you appear for from the very beginning as well.